Hey, before we dive into the episode, I wanted to let you know about the No Yell Summer Workshop. I am creating this because I've heard from so many parents that are worried and nervous and already feeling overwhelmed about summer. And I want you to make this the best summer ever. So for just $7, you can come spend 90 minutes with me on May 28th. We're going to create an amazing plan that's based in developmental psychology and attachment theory so that you can make this the best summer yet. If you go to cmp.works/summer, you can save your spot. If you can't come live, we're going to send you the replay and you're going to be able to create that plan that will leave you feeling empowered and excited so that at the end of summer, you're sad it's ending instead of collapsing with relief it's over. All right, now let's get on to the episode. Neuroscience research indicates that it takes about 60 to 63 days, so about 8 weeks, to build a new habit to the point where it becomes more automatic than your old pattern. Welcome to the Connect Method Parenting Podcast, where correction is out, connection is in, and your kids want to listen to you. I'm Andy Martineau, creator of Connect Method Parenting, here to help you stay calm, confident, and connected no matter what. Hey, everybody. I just wrapped up something really beautiful, the No Yell Summer Workshop, and wow, I just have to tell you the energy, the shifts, the stories, so good. If you were there, we created a plan. You created a plan rooted in connection, not correction. We got clear on your summer parent identity. You probably didn't know what that was before. If you missed it, you still can join. You can watch the replay. But if you were there live, it was so awesome. We talked about what sets us off, how to recover instead of react. And here's something I've heard from so many of you. You're like, I loved this. I want to do this, but how do I actually live it? So I want to talk about taking plans that we have in our parenting, in our life, and implementing them. That's my passion, because we can know a lot of things. We can listen to a lot of podcasts, read the books, talk to people, know all this stuff, and not be able to implement it. That was me for many years when I first started down this path myself. So I wanted to address this. That's what this whole episode is devoted to, is committed to, because here is the truth that I have found, that the first 8 weeks, 2 months of changing how you parent are the hardest. Not because you're doing it wrong, but because you're doing something deeply right. You're questioning yourself, you're inspecting yourself, you're becoming someone different. So today I want to talk about why, when we first start changing, it's hard. It might even feel like things are getting worse, not better. And why those first 8 weeks specifically, that's what I have found, the 8 weeks, the first 2 months, if we can get those first 60 days under our belt, things start getting better. We start changing the neural pathways. We start seeing some traction. We get some wins. But those first 8 weeks of transitioning from what I call corrective or traditional parenting, from learning theory-based parenting to a connective, developmentally based, attachment theory-based parenting are absolutely the hardest. And I want to talk about why pushing through them is going to change everything, because this is where transformation lives. It's that uncomfortable, that messy, sometimes tearful space where you're trying something new while your brain is screaming at you to go back to what's familiar. That space where you're rewiring not just your actions, I would say, but your entire understanding of what it means to be a parent. And with so many of you that have just come to the No Yell Summer Workshop, I do not want you to have this fantastic plan that's based in developmental psychology, that's grounded in attachment theory, and have it not be implemented. So we have a couple of months of summer, 8 weeks-ish, sometimes, maybe 10 weeks, 12 weeks, maybe if you have a really long summer. So let me paint this picture of what 8 weeks often looks like. And I will say, for me, it wasn't 8 weeks. I have distilled down what took me 3+ years, maybe even 5, down into 8 weeks, because I didn't have the support or the help or the structure. I was looking at so many experts and theories and scientists and studying psychology and studying the brain. It took me a long time to piece together what now I help moms do in 8 weeks, which is what I want you to do with your No Yell Summer plan, or whatever goals and intentions you have for the summer. I want you to be able to take this summer chunk and make mad progress, because I've been there, I've been right in the thick of it. And I don't want you to struggle for 3 to 5 years. I want you to be able to take 8 weeks or maybe 10 weeks, whatever this summer is for you, and make great progress. Okay, I'm going to tell you the reality behind what this messy beginning stage looked like for me. So going back 15 years, we were just moving back across state lines. I'm actually not sure the year, but it was 10 to 15 years ago. And I was surrounded by boxes. We were in a rental home because we were deciding to build. We had been gone for a while. We'd sold our place. We didn't know if we were going to come back. We were back and weren't ready to buy. Had bought some land. We're thinking we were going to build. So we were in this place for a year, this rental place for a year, or home for a year rather. I had just left a place I absolutely loved. I loved where we had been. It was in the mountains. There were seasons. I just really loved the change from the desert. And now we were back in the desert. And I was carrying a lot of sadness, a lot of just pain and sorrow from having to leave this beautiful place that I had just been able to live in for just a year and settle back into my new reality. And I was excited, and we had a lot of friends and family coming back home, but I was so sad to leave the mountains. So there I am, lots of little kids, a house filled with boxes, and a home I wasn't going to stay here very long. We only signed a year lease. I was like, oh, to unpack everything. We're just going to have to pack it all up in a year. The kids were loud. They were needy. They weren't exactly helpful in the unpacking process. My husband had to go right back to work. They needed him. That's why we had to come back. They had some things that really needed his attention. And so I was home alone. He was working a lot, and we were homeschooling at the time. And I was so overwhelmed. And I was also still in this 3 to 5 transition period where I knew better, but I didn't always do better. And I was still trying to put all the pieces together with what I would eventually become Connect Method Parenting. And this one afternoon, I just lost it. I was so overwhelmed, and I felt like this overwhelm crashed over me like a big wave. And I didn't want to yell at my kids. I knew that. I had made this commitment. Don't yell at the kids. This isn't their problem. My overwhelm isn't because of what they're doing. Yet I kind of didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to yell at them. I didn't want them to take the brunt of my frustration. So I made a split-second decision that still makes me shake my head. I've told this to so many of my friends, and one of my good friends, her name's Leah, every time she hears me tell this story, she just can't stop laughing because it's such a ridiculous, crazy story of emotional stuffing and avoidance. So I'm going to tell you what it's like. And this is an extreme version of the dissonance and the what do I do? And I go from one extreme to the other extreme in this transition period that I think we can really make a lot of traction just in the first 8 weeks, but mine was years. So anyway, here we are. I made this split-second decision. I piled my kids in the car, and I thought, I do not want to deal with this mess. I don't want to unpack any more boxes, and I don't want to get mad. So we were in the Phoenix area, Phoenix Metro, which is about 6 hours from Disneyland. My husband's at work. All my kids are at home. I put the kids in the car. I have them all pack a couple nights worth of clothes. And I start driving to Disneyland because in my brain, I know, crazy, right? In my brain, I'm thinking, I just want to be happy. Where's the happy place? The happiest place on earth is Disneyland. So total avoidance. I went completely passive, didn't want to face reality, but didn't want to lose my mind. And I do have to give myself credit. I mean, I was trying to avoid having a complete meltdown, having a complete blow up. And sometimes we do crazy stuff when we're trying to figure this out. We don't actually know how to do it. And I didn't have the capacity to hold all the discomfort and the overwhelm and the sadness and the frustration that I was feeling. So, I mean, I was trying my best. I'll give myself a big pat on the back for that. In my mind, I thought, if I can just get us to the happiest place on earth, I don't have to deal with all these emotions or this mess. I'm going to feel happy. I'm going to have a connected time. I want to feel connected to my kids. I didn't even call my husband. I just thought because I knew he would talk me out of it. I'm sure that's why I didn't call him. I just thought he's going to come home tonight. We're not going to be there. He's probably going to be fine because he's so busy at work. We'll be back in a couple of days. I didn't have a hotel booked. I didn't have tickets to Disneyland booked. I don't know, literally like what was happening in my brain. I know what was happening in my brain. I just was trying desperately not to explode at my kids. And I decided we go to Disneyland. And oh my goodness, sweet friends, I was so committed to this fantasy escape that we even stopped at Target. And I walked in. And I bought everybody, because I hadn't told them where we were going. I was just like, guys, we're going on a trip. We're getting out of here. So I walk into Target, and I don't know why I knew they would have Mickey and Minnie shirts, but maybe at the time they just always did. Anyway, they had the Mickey and Minnie shirts. So I bought the Mickey and Minnie shirts and I bought a car adapter so that my son could plug his, I think, computer in so he could do some of his schoolwork into the cigarette lighter. So I bought the car adapter, I bought the Minnie and Mickey shirts. I come out, show them the shirts and I say, guess what? Now you know where we're going. We're going to Disneyland. And everyone's so excited and they can't believe it. I mean, picture me standing in Target with a cart full of Disney merchandise, absolutely convinced that matching t-shirts would somehow solve the chaos of my unpacked life and my unprocessed emotions. I was that deluded, that desperate for any solution that didn't involve sitting with my uncomfortable emotions and also didn't involve me getting upset because of my uncomfortable emotions and taking them out on my kids. I know, completely deluded. I hope we've all done something like this. Probably not as extreme as this. This is pretty extreme. So we live on the east side of Phoenix. So I've got to go to, through the entire valley. If you've never been to Phoenix, it's very big. It's very big. I don't know how many people live there right now, but it's very big. It took us an hour at least to drive from where we lived on the east side to the west side. And on the west side, somewhere near Surprise, Arizona, which is one of the last towns of civilization before you start heading into the desert, and how fitting, right? That name turned out to be. So I pull into the gas station. I think it was in Surprise, Arizona. And I'm going to get them lunch at the gas station. I'm such a good mom. I'm getting them, gas station pizza and hot dogs. And I get the pizza and the hot dogs because we're having a fun time. We're going to Disneyland. And the reality hit me. I don't know why, but it just hit me like a ton of bricks. And all of a sudden I skewed to the other side. I was like, what am I doing? Running away from my problems? That's not going to solve anything. Not holding my kids accountable. So right there at the gas station, I completely did an about face. I told my kids, hey, we're not going to Disneyland. We're turning around. We're heading home. We're going to face the mess. And then in a complete 180 from my escape attempt, I swung to the other extreme, announced that there would be no privileges until the house was in order. Talk about Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. In the span of a few hours, I'd gone from passive avoidance to authoritative control. Neither approach was grounded in connection. I was trying my hardest, you guys. I was trying my hardest to be a compassionate alpha. That's what I would call it now. Didn't have that term then. I was trying to be compassionate. I was trying to lead strongly. I was trying to get my kids to help unpack the boxes, which looking back, they probably weren't capable. I probably should have called some other people in to help me, some adults, because my kids were little. I knew that I didn't want to blame the kids for how I was feeling. I knew I didn't want to have a takeover of my emotions. I was trying my best. Now, we did go back. We took about another week to unpack the house. We didn't make it to Disneyland in that period of time. I did calm down. I did start to have some awareness about how I could hold some limits and still be connected, have my brain come back on, had my husband help me think through some things, and have a story now that and part of me is mortified by the story. Let's be honest. I'm being a little vulnerable here on the podcast today. I mean, my kids laugh their heads off about the story because I think it's so funny. It shows how committed I am, they say, to trying to do my best and being completely confused sometimes. Thank goodness I didn't traumatize them. But that moment really represents exactly what I'm talking about today. I mean, it's an extreme example. I almost didn't share it because I'm thinking this is a little like it's a glimpse into the crazy chaos, the messy middle where you're trying to find your way. You don't have a clear path and you have no idea what you're doing, but you know what you want to create. Like I knew without a shadow of a doubt that I wanted to have compassionate responses. I wanted to be in control. I didn't want to blame my kids for my emotions. I had very little idea how to do that when the rubber met the road, when the boxes were piling up and it felt like all the kids wanted to do was make more messes. So this messy middle that I hope you will, we're going to feel it. We're going to feel it no matter what. But I'm hoping that you can get through a lot of it in 8 weeks. And that's why last year we did a whole year studying this program and getting feedback, and it works like a charm, the 8-week parenting pivot, where we took the framework and the essential things, which was so hard. I wanted to include everything, and I had beautiful, amazing people around me helping me distill it to its essence. It's really hard. I want to share everything all at once, just open the floodgates. But that's what I had been doing, and it was a little bit overwhelming for people. So we broke it down, distilled it down, and into the most essential things to learn in those first 8 weeks. That makes the next year of implementing it so much easier if you can just get through those 8 weeks with this clear path, go through the pivot. And I'm so grateful that there is now an 8-week path. I wish I had had it. I'm a little jealous of you all that you get to just do the 8-week parenting pivot, but it's going to make that messy middle where you're trying to find your way easier because you're going to have a clear path. I lay it all out for you. And that's why everyone who did the No Yell Summer, I highly recommend you come and join us in what I'm calling the No Yell Summer Implementation Experience, which is where we're going to focus on your summer plan using the pivot as the framework to help you get the foundation you need. This is the work that changes everything. It changes everything. Connect Method Parenting is based in developmental psychology. It's based in attachment theory, neuroscience. It's based in some of the CBT and some of the ways that we change our neural pathways and change our thinking. It doesn't just change your relationships with your children. It really changes your relationship with yourself and everyone in your life. One of my favorite things that one of the moms in that's now working with me in League in the CMP Mastery program, she said, this shouldn't be called Connect Method Parenting. It should be called Connect Method Living. And I love that so much. And that's really what it does, is how we do anything is how we do everything. So if you came to the No Yell Summer workshop, I want you to be paying attention, because whether you join us in the pivot, which I would love for you to join us in the No Yell Summer Implementation Experience, where I'm going to take you through the pivot and help you implement your plan. Or if you're just listening to this and you want to try it on your own, which if you can, bravo. What I want for you is to use the next 8 weeks of summer to be a catalyst for lasting change. And I also want to explain to you why these first 8 weeks are so challenging, the science behind the struggle, so that you're not feeling discouraged when maybe you aren't making the fast progress that you want to make. You know better, but you can't do better. And just to make you feel better, you can think about my Disneyland experience and think, I'm not that crazy. I have a little bit more common sense about me. So hopefully that'll make you feel better. Now let's dive into why these first 8 weeks feel so incredibly hard. So think of it like building that entire new set of muscles. If you've ever started a new workout routine after months or years of inactivity, you know what I'm talking about. Those first 2 workouts, brutal. Everything hurts. You wonder if you're cut out for this. You question why you even started in the first place. But what's actually happening in your body during that time? You're breaking down muscle fibers so they can rebuild stronger. And when we're doing this with our parenting framework, we're doing this with our brain. We're creating new neural pathways. Your body is literally transforming at a cellular level, but that transformation doesn't feel good while it's happening. And whether we're doing it with our muscles or we're doing it with our brain, the transformation can feel a little painful. James Clear's work on habit formation teaches us that our small improvements compound over time like interest on an investment. So each time you choose this new way of parenting, you choose connection over correction, you choose to not blow up or blame your kids when they're being, crazy and not listening to you, you're making a small deposit that will yield incredible returns later. But just like in financial investment, the real growth isn't visible the very first day or the first week. And there might even be the ups and the downs, because it's a long-term investment. Neuroscience research indicates that it takes about 60 to 63 days, so about 8 weeks, to build a new habit to the point where it becomes more automatic than your old pattern. So that's 8-9 weeks, which is why so many parents give up right before the breakthrough happens. But this is where transformation lives, in the gap between starting something new and having it feel natural. But there's another layer to this challenge. Dr. Dan Siegel's research explores how our rational brain gets hijacked by our emotional brain during stress. So during these first 8 weeks, you're going to experience this brain hijacking regularly because your triggers are still raw and reactive. Your responses haven't been practiced enough to become automatic. Your nervous system is learning a whole new way of regulating itself. Gabor Mate, and I'm so sorry if it's Gabor Mate. I'm always questioning myself every time I say his name, but Gabor Mate's, his work is so powerful. And he helps us understand that the real issue isn't our child's behavior, but our reactivity to that behavior, which is what we're working on especially in these first 8 weeks. I mean, we're always working on this, but in these first 8 weeks, we're really having to be conscious of, oh, there I am reacting again. Oh, there I am blaming the kids again. Oh, there I am dysregulated again. This is the work that changes everything. Learning to recognize when you're triggered and then beginning to choose a different response, even if we see it after the fact. Even when every cell in our body is urging us to resort to old patterns, once we start to see a new way, things start to change. Now, here's what you need to know. This is what I wish someone had told me during my gas station revelation moment in Surprise, Arizona. I wish I'd had this surprise given to me. The discomfort in the beginning, the feeling of not knowing how to stay in the middle, going from one extreme to the other, or what I described as feeling like you're Dr. Jekyll and then you're Mr. Hyde, this discomfort, this dissonance, it's not a sign that something's wrong. It's a sign that everything's working exactly as it should. You might be thinking, my child needs a consequence or they'll never learn responsibility. And then your brain will say, no, they need something else, the connection, but will that work? And you're going back and forth and you're trying to figure out this new framework and feeling a little unsure, maybe getting excited about it when you hear someone talk about it, but in the heat of the moment, not really feeling as grounded or secure. And I hear you. That's what I was feeling. I was feeling this tug between two worlds, not knowing what to believe or how to even do this new way of parenting. The belief is so ingrained in our culture that they need a consequence to learn a lesson. So it makes sense that it's such a hard thing to let go of. We have to really restructure our parenting paradigm. I love the work of Dr. Gordon Neufeld. He explores how our natural parenting instincts have become compromised by our culture's emphasis on using consequences to change behavior. We've been led to believe that without a punishment, without a reward, children have no motivation to learn or grow or behave appropriately. But I believe that that assumption is fundamentally flawed. And we're going to unpack it. I unpack it a lot in the 8-week parenting pivot. But I believe that children are wired for connection and cooperation, and that it's our need to give or our drive to give the punishment that is getting in the way of them cooperating and wanting to listen to us. I want to talk about 3 essential elements for breaking through, because this is where transformation lives, in the integration of these new tools, this new framework, to be able to have that deep self-awareness to know better and then to do better. So there's 3 elements that I have found really will help make this faster. 1 is community. When you're in the thick of rewiring your parenting approach, having people around you who get it is so powerful. People who won't raise an eyebrow when you choose connection over correction. People who can remind you why you started this journey when you're tempted to give up. I feel like community offers a safe place to look at ourselves honestly and to be vulnerable about mistakes and have people support us and to be able to support other people as they're going through their things. It gives us a mirror that reflects back not just our struggles, but also our growth. So having people around you that can support you, finding those friends, finding that community, so important. The second thing that I have found as I've been on this journey myself, as I've helped other moms and dads do this as well, is a clear path. Just like you wouldn't attempt to build physical strength without understanding proper form, I believe you shouldn't attempt to rebuild your parenting approach without a clear roadmap. When I look back on my Disneyland fiasco, what I needed more wasn't willpower. I didn't need more willpower or even more patience. What I needed was a clear path to help me navigate overwhelming situations without swinging between passive and authoritative responses. A clear path gives us concrete practices for every challenge that we face. And if we don't know the path, we can ask for the path. We figure out the path. It answers questions like, what do I do when my child's melting down? How can I hold a limit without being punitive? What does repair look like after I mess up? So having a clear path, having the confidence that I can find the answers to my questions is so important. And the third thing that I feel is essential as we're going down this journey is nervous system support. And this might be one of the most overlooked aspects of parenting transformation, but it's critical. Your nervous system has been conditioned to respond to certain triggers in certain ways. So when your child defies you, when they throw a tantrum or they're fighting with their siblings, your body physiologically prepares for the threat before you're even consciously aware of it. It processes what happens. It processes what's happening and it says, okay, threat, go into fight or flight. So learning to notice these triggers, these physical responses, the tightening in your chest, the heat rising in your face, the shallow breathing, gives you the precious few seconds you need to choose a new response. Alfie Kahn's research shows us that children learn to make good decisions by actually making decisions, not by following directions. And this is the same for us as parents. We learned this new way of parenting by practicing it imperfectly, by making lots of small choices, making mistakes, learning from them, and building a new default. And so I love that we're going to do this first, then we're going to help our kids do it first. We're going to help them make good decisions and establish good patterns and habits by making decisions in a safe environment. And we're going to practice it by doing it ourselves, not just by following what someone says. Say it just like this. Talk to your kids when they're upset in this specific way with this really specific script. I mean, I think it's important to get inspired to have, I give people all the time, like words, like here's something you could say, but it's who they're being and making that decision of how they want to feel in the moment that's going to make all of the difference. Okay. So let's talk about what those 8 weeks actually look like, because taking this awareness that, hey, when I first start doing something new, it's usually the hardest time. And I know we've used the analogy of working out. Like, hey, when I go to the gym, the first couple of months are going to be painful and hard, and they're going to require me to stick with it, even though there's going to be times where I think, is anything really changing? Because there is a delay in putting in the effort and seeing the results. You don't become a bodybuilder after working out for 2 weeks. You don't become strong just after a couple of weeks. You might have some areas that are getting stronger. You can see gradual improvement, but you're not going to see your finished, goal body or see the weight number that you want on the scale just in a few weeks. It takes time. And this is the work that changes everything, whether it's with our bodies or with our minds, with our parenting. And it happens in those small, consistent steps over time. So here's what those 8 weeks actually look like in practice. What I have found works really well is the first couple of weeks, you're going to have the focus be on awareness and understanding. So you're going to start noticing your triggers. You're going to start naming them. You're going to begin to recognize the thoughts that drive your reactions. You're going to learn the difference between the behavior that the kids are doing and what's happening behind it, the needs behind it. So much awareness, so much understanding. If we were to compare this to going to the gym, it's like the first couple of weeks, you're going to get familiar with the equipment. You're going to start to understand how to isolate different muscles. And then in weeks 3 and 4, we're going to start breaking patterns. So you practice pausing before responding. You experiment with new phrases and approaches and ways of thinking, and you start focusing on connection before correction. And you're going to start seeing more and more awareness in real time. You're going to understand and see it faster after the fact. You're going to feel better. You're going to start breaking the patterns in your awareness. You're not just learning it now, you're doing it. So if we're going to compare it to working out, the first couple of weeks, you're getting familiar with the equipment and you're getting better at understanding how to use it properly. And then this next couple of weeks, week 3 and 4, you're going to start actually being able to do the exercises somewhat properly. You're going to start to be able to know what to do without someone telling you exactly what to do next. And then week 5 and 6, you're going to start building new defaults. So this is where the nervous system begins to regulate more quickly. You find yourself naturally choosing connection more often than not. You're going to notice small shifts in your child's responsiveness and especially in your nervous system's responsiveness. And so it becomes a little bit more familiar. So if you were going to the gym, first couple of weeks, you learn what the equipment is, learn how to do some of the skills. Week 3 and 4, you're starting to get a little bit better at it. Week 5 and 6 is starting to become normal. This is beginning to be your new normal. I work out. I use this equipment. I know what to do. Week 7 and 8, you're going to start having more integration and more momentum. So the new approach of Connect Method parenting starts feeling more natural. You recover more quickly when you slip up and go back into old patterns, and you begin to trust yourself in the process. So this is when, if you're comparing it to the gym analogy, where you're starting to see some changes, you're starting maybe to see the number on the scale change a little bit, you're starting to feel more energy, you feel more healthy. So same with parenting, right? We're starting to integrate it. You're starting to feel the momentum. It's starting to feel more natural. You belong here. This is part of who I am. So throughout these weeks, you're building your parenting muscles in the same way an athlete builds physical strength, through consistent practice, appropriate recovery, and gradual progressive overload. Does that make sense? You're taking on more and more. Some days are going to feel like moving mountain. Some days will feel like you've moved a mountain. Miraculous things have happened. Unforgettable moments of connection and patience. And then other days you're going to feel like you forgot everything. It all flew out the window. Both are normal. Both are part of the process. Let me tell you something I wish someone had told me years ago. Setbacks aren't failures. They are essential. They are just as essential as the wins. They are part of the learning process. And I love how James Clear in his work teaches us that we don't rise to the level of our goals, we fall to the level of our systems. So those first 8 weeks, you're building new systems. both within yourself and within your family. When old patterns emerge, and they will, it doesn't mean this new approach isn't working. It means you're in the messy middle of transformation. After my Disneyland U-turn, I spent weeks and weeks, maybe months, I probably is more accurately to say months and months, slowly unwinding what happened. I had to repair relationships with my kids. I had to figure out what the heck happened with my nervous system. I had to find middle ground between running away from things and cracking down on things. And I didn't have a guide then to help me see what I had done and how I could do better. I didn't have a community. I was fumbling around through the dark, it felt like, with a little match to lead the way. I was trying to find my way into knowing how to be that compassionate alpha parent, how to hold limits with connection, how to be firm yet caring. And this is where the transformation lives. It lives in those messy moments. I learned so much after my Disneyland U-turn experience. I would say more in those few months afterwards than I had before, because I was confronting myself. I was really digging in. I was learning. I was repairing. It's in those moments when you mess up that you recognize what happened and you see things with more clarity. You mine for gold from the failure and you move forward with greater understanding, deeper compassion, and more capacity. I want to share something deeply personal with you for a minute. That Disneyland story, it was just one moment in what turned out to be a 5-year journey for me. 5 years of trial and error, 5 years of stumbling in the dark, maybe a little bit forward sometimes, but mostly falling back and then finding my way again. It took me 5 years to gain real traction with connective parenting. 5 years of reading books, trying techniques, feeling lost, starting over, messing up epically. 5 years of wondering if I was doing anything right, if this was actually going to work, or if I was going to end up in a worse place than I was before. I share this not to discourage you, but because I don't want you to have to wait that long. I don't want you to wander in the parenting wilderness like I did without a map or a companion. That's why I've distilled everything I've learned, all the research, all the mistakes, all the breakthroughs into what I now call the 8-week parenting pivot. It's the path I wish I had. It's the companion that I was longing for in the gas station in Surprise, Arizona. And the results, they've been nothing short of miraculous. Parents who have completed the 8-week parenting pivot have reported that their kids' listening has improved by 250%. That's insane. Not 25%, not even 100%, but 251%. That was out in one of the pivots that we studied. Their relationships with their children improved by 202% in one of the cohorts we studied. And imagine that for a minute, a relationship twice as connected, twice as trusting, twice as joyful. And their ability to handle challenging parenting situations in that cohort, that increased 246%. I want you to think about that for a moment. What would that mean for you? Having more than twice the confidence, the tools, the calm when facing the toughest parenting moments. These aren't just numbers. They're real families. They're real relationships. They're real kids and parents, real parents discovering that they don't have to choose between being respected and being loving. They don't have to choose between setting a limit or being compassionate, that they can have both. Real children learning that they can bring their whole selves, all their emotions, all their struggles, all their questions to their parents who will see them and hear them and stay connected to them no matter what. This is the work that changes everything. And you don't have to spend 5 years figuring it out like I did. You can start seeing changes, big changes in just 8 weeks. But the first 8 weeks are going to feel the hardest. And I promise you, if you push through the 8 weeks, whether you do the pivot with me or you get my book and you follow everything I outline in there, if you embrace the discomfort, if you find a community, you follow a path that feels clear to you, you support your nervous system, what waits for you on the other side will transform not just your parenting, but your entire relationship with yourself. This isn't just about fewer tantrums. It's about who you become as a parent. It's about developing the capacity to be present with the difficult emotions, with the children's big tantrums, with all of the things that are going to happen in life. It's about creating a home where feelings are welcomed, not feared. So these 8 weeks build the foundation for a lifetime of trust, because when your kids can bring their whole self to you, their anger, their disappointment, their lies, their failures, their biggest feelings, without fear of rejection or punishment, you're giving them a gift that will serve them their entire life. Gordon Neufeld's research illuminates how focusing on our relationship with our child gives us more influence in focusing on their behavior. And I have found that time and time again with my own children and with the parents that I've worked with, that when we're focusing on the connection, that will change the behavior more than focusing on the behavior. This is the work that changes everything when we shift from short-term compliance to long-term connection and influence. So here's my invitation to you. Consider what it would be worth to you to transform your parenting from the ground up, to move from correction to connection, to move from a behavior modification, learning theory base to a developmental base, to build relationships with your children that will sustain you both through every challenge that comes ahead, because there will be challenges. There will be hard things that happen. And if you remember, I'm going to go all in on this, and the first 8 weeks are the hardest, and that's okay. That's what I expect. We don't sugarcoat that reality, because also, even though they're the hardest, they're also where the most magic happens, where the neural pathways start to form, where the emotions start to become something we are more aware of and we can navigate more smoothly and more compassionately, where triggers begin to lose their power, where you rediscover your natural parenting instincts beneath the layers of conditioning. And if you want help navigating the first 8 weeks of this journey, the 8-week parenting pivot is waiting for you. If you go to cmp.works/pivot, you can get yourself into the pivot and start making lasting changes for yourself. And I'll be there cheering you on every step of the way. Because what I know is that in the 8-week parenting pivot, you can learn what took me 5 years to figure out on my own in 8 weeks. And we're starting new groups regularly, so come check it out and see what is possible for you. Because unlike my gas station moment in surprise, you don't have to figure this out alone. Read my book, listen to the podcast, and if you're ready for help, come join me in the pivot. You don't need to wander for years like I did, swinging between extremes and second-guessing yourself. You have guides, community, and clear steps for each challenge you face, ready for you inside the pivot. As Brené Brown says, the middle is messy, but it's also where the magic happens. And I agree wholeheartedly to that. The middle is so messy and it can feel so hard and overwhelming, but it's also where so much goodness happens. So I'll meet you in that messy middle, friends. Hopefully I'll meet you inside the pivot in the messy middle. If not, I'll meet you each week on this podcast in the messy middle, because I know what's waiting for you on the other side. So I want you to dive in and not be afraid when those first 8 weeks are so hard. So until next time, remember, this is where transformation lives, right here in the honest acknowledgement of where you are and the courageous commitment to where you're going. All right. Sending you so much love. Thanks for tuning in today. Wishing you all of the best, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys. Thanks so much for listening, you all. If you are ready to learn more about Connect Method Parenting, if you've been listening to the podcast and you think, ooh, I'd love to be able to implement this in my life and with my parenting more, then check out Pivot. It's my 8-week program where we deep dive into learning and implementing Connect Method Parenting so that you can take this information and transform your parenting journey. Head over to connectmethodparenting.com to find out when the next group starts.